Okay? They don't electrocute them. They don't give them a lethal injection because, you know why? It'll ruin their organs. They just take you up against a wall, put a gun up to your head, and pull the trigger.
Oh, yeah, and they've got, you know, probably 3 or 4 people standing right there with scalpels ready to get busy, you know, and yeah, they're efficient. I mean, you don't want to be jaywalking in China.
No, you don't. And, you know, I had a friend actually in Taipei. He was the airline pilot. And the taxi cab driver got in an accident. And his friend that was with him said, hey, we got to bail out of this taxi cab. And he goes, why? He says, when the police come, the driver isn't going to get the one that's going to end up having to pay. We will. And I guess they have a law in some countries that, you know, even if you're in a taxi, right, and it gets involved in an accident, the riders are the ones that are responsible. The people who contracted to use the taxi.
Oh, wow. I guess you're guilty by proxy. Wow, that's a heck of a law, isn't it? Boy, if you were a taxi driver, you could plan something and do it and just, you know, make sure you got a few passengers and just say, well, it was their fault.
Well, you know, here's something, too. It's a day old in the news. In Colorado, a homeowner sued the local police department, SWAT, because they had a shootout. The problem is they went to the wrong house.
Oh, Lord.
So they literally destroyed his house. So he takes them to federal court. He wins. Okay? The police department then appeals it. And a federal appeals court rules this past Tuesday that the local police department does not have to compensate the homeowners whose house was totally destroyed by 19 hours of this. Ready? 19 hours of gunfire between officers.
19 hours? That's the most. That's got to be
They weren't home. I
record.
guess the homeowners weren't home. And I'm reading more. There was a shoplifter suspect who barricaded himself in the back of the house. So the police.
Okay,
here comes the police, right? He's a shoplifter. Why would you be shooting at a house for a shoplifter? But I guess in Colorado, I guess maybe that local police department got a little. Somebody pulled a trigger, and then they all started pulling the trigger for 19 hours before the guy came out. The homeowners come home and find their house is totally destroyed and everything in it.
That sounds like a little town. They don't have much experience. They're gun happy, not much excitement. They got a shoplifter. They're going to shoot it out. They probably know the judge who threw it out of court or favored, and the police. It just all smells bad. But you're right. Who gets in a 19-hour shootout with a shoplifter? That's absurd.
Yeah, and the shoplifter didn't even have a gun.
What? So what was they shooting at for 19 hours?
Well, the guy didn't come out, so I guess they just decided to open up on the house.
That is an experience because just kick the door and throw some tear gas in, or I mean, it's just
come on. Look at that. They were using it as target practice, number one. The excitement got going. And they probably have all this extra ammo that our, government gave the local police departments, just for they could be stocked up. And they figured, hey, it's a good excuse to use a couple thousand rounds.
It is a blessing, a true blessing that somebody's pets or other people nearby didn't catch a stray bullet and die. That's just all wrong. I'm sorry.
Well, could you imagine you're coming home the next day and you look at your house, what's left of it, then you go inside of it, and everything is shot up. I mean, those bullets go right through especially the way they make houses nowadays. You're just going through some, press board and whatever, what the front of the house is made out of. The bullets are going to go right through it. So your TV's gone, everything is gone. It's inside your house, but face it, it's horrible. And then in Indiana, a woman was found dead with a python wrapped around her neck, and she had 140 other snakes in her home.
Oh, boy, why do people... Oh, boy, people really tempted. I tell you, it's bad enough you got one snake that could kill and eat you, but when you got 19 others, probably poisonous ones and everything else.
140 others.
Oh, Oh boy. All it takes is just one to get loose or something. And because here's the thing, if one gets loose, you know how hard or how easy it is for a snake, especially if it's a smaller poisonous one, to hide. And all you do is put a shoe on or reach under something and you're bit and you might lose a finger, your arm, or your life. Not to mention one of those that's big enough to wrap around you and swallow you.
Well, some people are really into snakes and reptiles. You know, I don't blame you, but, you know, one thing I learned from somebody that did, you know, have those type of things as pets is you don't handle like a mouse or a rat before you feed your python or you feed your snake. Unless you wash your hands really good, because the snake is not going to distinguish between your hand and that mouse or rat you were just touching. So they'll go after you.
That's very true, and it's very true. And, you know, another thing, there's got to be some kind of ordinance, I would think, and each state probably has different ones, but I would think unless you're some kind of a shop owner or something, there must be an ordinance of how many you're legally allowed to have, but 100 and something, that's all. I would say that's above the average. I'm just saying.
I don't know. I knew a lady one time that had like about 80 cats, but 140 snakes, and they weren't in cages. So, I mean, and then, well, you know, some people are kind of crazy and they get involved in pets. They think, oh, these pets love me. Well, I guess that python really loved her too, didn't it?
That python was there to serve man.
Well, in this case, to serve her. And in France, a woman who's 70 years old has a condition where her urine is bright purple.
Oh, I could just hear Prince singing Purple Rain.
Purple Rain, yes. Okay, you peed on the toilet seat again. No, I didn't. No, I didn't. Yes, you did. There's purple rain on the seat.
She leaving tracks all over the place. Well, they would love her in China, wouldn't they? They'd put her right to work.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, she could be tanning purple leather. I don't know. So we got a couple minutes. UFO sightings or anything interesting?
Yeah, there's been. Let's see, when was it? Las Vegas, Nevada, October 25th, or October 22nd. There was lights. UFO lights filmed hovering over Las Vegas. Now, they resembled very closely to the Phoenix lights. Remember that back in 97?
Oh, yeah. That was awesome.
Yeah, and there's a video on it. I can't show the video, but it does look a lot like it. They hovered over the city for a few minutes and just kind of, you know, moved on. But, you know, it makes you think, was it one of our secret craft experiments or one that got away, or was it aliens? Who knows?
We don't.
I mean, we don't know. Also, there was a cube-shaped UFO that flew near the sun at a great speed. Now, that was on a video, too, and that was October 22nd. And that was NASA solar satellite captured the cube-shaped UFO. The object flew past the sun at incredible speed. So here's the thing. Something at that type of speed, well, obviously it's nothing we got up there like that. First of all, why would we want to even be near the sun? And it makes me think, because I've seen other videos and stuff where it looks like these ships are like, I don't know, taking something from the sun or whatever, but they're very... I don't know, very intriguing. I don't know what to think about them. You got any thoughts on them?
Well, whatever they have for a propulsion system is far superior than anything we have. You know, we're basically, you know, take a Bic lighter and light it, and then you go. I mean, we could, if we got anywhere near the sun, we'd be pulled right into the sun, number one. Number two, we'd burn up. If we didn't burn up, we would be dead anyway from the radiation. So whatever advanced civilization to be able to get close to the sun and to harvest anything from the sun has technology far superior than we can even imagine, unless you're John Picard. Now, you remember the Borgs.
Yeah.
It could be the Borgs are real. You never know. Maybe no, I'm not going to get into this. That was a bad joke.
Boy. But let me tell you, how about the people that out there that say that we're at the top of the pinnacle, there's no other things out there, and saying knowing that we're a civilization that uses fossil fuels, which is dead plants and animals, to project our vehicles. And that's just absurd to even think something like that.
Well, you don't want to offend some of our listeners, okay? But I will say this. If they believe that, the world is flat. I'm still trying to figure out where the water goes. Because if the world is flat, the water would run off. And then all of a sudden the seas would have been empty, thousands of years ago. So I haven't figured that one out, but the world is flat. Okay, that's where they fit in.
Maybe it's like one of them snow globes. You just turn it upside down again and it goes back to reset. I don't know. Anyway, there was 4 cigar-shaped UFO sightings near Winston-Salem, North Carolina. And that was on October 3rd. It doesn't say much about it except let's see, the 4 cigar-shaped UFOs changing from red to silver like moving horizontal, appearing and disappearing very slow.
Well, did you hear on your report, though? You didn't get all of it. There was 4 lighters flying behind the cigars. I'm sorry.
You're terrible. Oh, boy. And then there was, there was another brilliant white OPEC circle visits. Or, in other words, like an OPEC circle-shaped UFO visited a campsite, and that was October 5th. And now this one, it was coming in, they seen it, and it was a couple camping. And the husband, every time he'd see an aircraft fly by or something, he had one of them LED lights, and he would flash it at them and play with them. Well, I guess, and word of the wise, you might not want to do that because if there's alien UFOs out there, you will get their attention, and you might not want their attention. But anyway, it got their attention, and it came closer and closer. And he went through, and the wife, she bailed. She ran in the RV and locked herself in it. Well, he had a .45 caliber gun there. He went to reach for it. And when he went to reach for it, he said his arm went numb. He couldn't move. Something that stopped him from reaching for the gun. He couldn't, like he was paralyzed. But then that's all the memories they have, and the UFO took off, supposedly. But, that goes to show you they might have had missing time. We don't know.
We'll never, ever want to do that with a light because, remember I was talking last night, Camino Island, we had a little run around with the raccoons where they were aggressive. I didn't, there's another part of the story. It was on the island, as one side of the island is the ocean. And, big fishing boats and boats would come by, and they had a buoy out there with a light on it. And one of the guys with me, it was like 3 of them, decides, well, I'm going to take my portable spotlight, and I'm going to go and sync with that buoy out there. So he was flashing it, like every time the buoy would go off, he would flash the light. And then the park rangers came and got us because we almost caused a ship to run aground. So, yeah, I was like 13 or 14 at the time. I didn't do it. It was my friend Pat Clark did that. But the whole point is, if we could get a ship to almost run across ground because it threw its, navigation off, you figure you start taking a spotlight and flashing it towards the UFO, you're going to get zapped. You might look like Kentucky Fried Chicken.
Yeah, it was one of them, pretty high-powered, I think it was a military-grade, them LEDs that are really... they're pretty strong and pretty steady beam, and there's flashing them. So yeah, I wouldn't suggest doing it anyway because there's a lot of aliens out there. You might get their attention, and that might not be a good thing. That might lead to a whole bunch of crap. Oh
yeah, and besides crap, it could be other stuff. But the whole point is, if you think a .45 caliber gun, pistol is going to protect you against aliens, forget that. I mean. If they have the technology, they just zap the whole area you're gone, and you're nothing.
Right. He couldn't even move, so didn't do him no good anyway.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. It's going to be a good night tonight. We have Earl Grey coming on, and he works with MUFON. He's one of the directors of investigation with MUFON in Southern California, so it's going to be a good show here tonight coming up in about a half an hour with him.
Yeah, looking forward to it. We're almost close to break now, aren't we? Yeah, it's going to be a great show.
Yeah. So what song are you going to sing here tonight for the break?
Well, let me tell you, pretty mama, I'm going to sing Metatron.
Okay. Well, we're going to go to break. We'll be back in 2.5 minutes. You're listening to me, Gary, on Night Dreams Talk Radio, and you're listening to him, James Christbaum. Write that name down. He's going to be famous someday. I don't know what for, but he'll be famous. Trust me. We'll be back in 2.5 minutes.